Good morning, everyone, afternoon, or evening, or whatever it may be for you. I hope that you are all well, and I know you're all eager for some Q&A. I almost messed up the beginning. So with my normal streams, I hit stream on my software and it just streams, but for a scheduled stream, I actually have to go into the studio and hit stream as well. Almost forgot that. So I hope you're all looking forward to our interview with Rhino. I know I am. That was one of my, or is my most popular stream to date, and it will be most likely the most popular stream this year again. Let me just click this button. We've got many questions to ask you, Rhino, and you said you got a good couple hours, and we're gonna have a nice chill stream.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So
I'm ready for the relaxation.
for those of you who may not know who he is, and I don't know why you'd be in the stream if you didn't know who he is. He's the author of one of the best read web novels on Web Novel Originals and on Royal Road.
For a second there, I thought you were about to say one of the best web novels on Royal Road, and I was like, wow, man, that means a lot coming from you.
Well, you are as well. I mean, what I don't take the overall rated list to be relevant. I look at the popular this week list, and that gives me a better idea of what's happening. And you've been consistently on that list the entire year in the top 5.
Yeah,
So that does make you one of the top on the website.
that's true.
And as far as I remember, you're in the top 10 of the original category on webnovel.com.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't checked over there for a little while.
So
Morning,
I think,
everybody in the chat. I can see in the chat.
um, are you watching the stream or are you watching? You just.
Yeah, I've got the stream up.
Okay,
I've got the
that's.
stream up and muted.
Yeah, the problem with that is that's going to be about 20 seconds out of what you're used to.
Yeah, I've just got it up so I can see the chat. Oop.
Yeah, I sent you a link. It should help.
Oh, okay, so this is just the chat.
That's just the chat, and that should give you a close to live.
Nice.
Alrighty. So yeah, you are one of the top web novels on both of those sites. Definitely maintained it over the last year and the last 350 chapters. That's a lot of chapters for a year.
That's many.
Yes, that is an ant farm in the background. Now, for everybody in chat, this is currently live. We're sniping them. We're stream sniping the ant farm. If you look in the description at the top there, there is a link for the stream, for the channel. The guy who has this thing only has 43 subscribers, so if you're so inclined, and as a thank you for letting us use it, why don't you head over there and subscribe to him, and then you can go back and watch Ant Farm whenever you want. I'm sure he will appreciate it. And I decided, you need something in the background just to keep people's eyes, but not too interesting to overtake the conversation.
Yeah. Look, ant farms are surprisingly soothing to look at.
Well, they're kind of like what was it? Freshwater fish tanks, or even saltwater fish tanks.
Hmm.
It's just something, and they're getting their stuff done, and they're not worried about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we got a fish tank of our own recently. It's been good.
Nice. Freshwater or seawater?
Freshwater.
Okay. Those are quite nice. Do you have a particular fish that you like?
Not in particular. Like we're absolute beginners at it, so we just we just ran with sort of what would be easy to keep.
Guppies and mollies.
Yeah, basically, that's sort of what we got.
They
Like
can generally
Aphids and Colonies.
outbreed any mistake you make.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot more fish in there than when we started.
Yeah, like guppies and mollies, they breed at an you cannot imagine how quickly they breed. You blink and there's little fish flying around.
Mm.
But it's fine
Yeah,
because
that's been the case.
they die quickly as well, so. Yeah.
Someone's feeling vibrant. Very nice.
Okay, I think that's as much as we're going to get. We're at 25 concurrent viewers, which I think is definitely a record for this year.
We're flying.
Okay, so how many words are in the series up to this point? Ballpark figure. I can answer that one. 800,000. Why can I answer that one? Because I've spoken every single one of those words.
Yeah, it's about 870,000 according to web novels count.
Okay, but on web novel, just random question. On web novel, do you have like an author section, and does that get counted
No.
into that word count?
No, I don't have an author section.
Good morning, Quantum. And Light Begets. Giving us an antidote over there.
Only the best emotes.
Oh, yes. So, yes, 870,000. For reference, Lord of the Rings trilogy is 150,000 words. So, Rhino has written almost 6. I had to do some maths this early in the morning. So, 6 Lord of the Ring books.
And the quality is exactly the same.
Well, I think you're producing more at a more steady pace than you used to.
I think so, yeah. It's been a little less stop-start.
But you have been focusing on that over the last little while. Is trying to be more consistent and release more.
Oh man, the questions are flooding in already.
Yep, and we haven't even got to the questions from the community post.
We should probably start with those though.
Yeah, they're the ones that got in early. So, first question, strangely enough, from the community post was also, do you have an ant farm?
I don't. I did for a while, but they died, sadly.
Oh. They didn't evolve to take over the world.
They didn't, no, despite my best efforts.
Yeah.
Attempting to create a new super species Vant.
Well, pouring toxic waste into the what is it, a vivarium? Doesn't help.
Yeah, a formicarium, I think they're called.
Ah, okay. Right.
Ants.
Really love Chrysalis and its new updating schedule, but will we be getting more updates on the other stories, specifically the Necromancer, or those stories that are on semi-hold until Chrysalis is finished?
Oh, so this is a Patreon question, really, because every now and again I post up chapters for side fictions, like other stories that I've written.
Didn't you post a couple up onto Royal Road as well, if I remember correctly?
I did put one on Royal Road because I leaked it by accident. Yeah, I'm hoping to more regularly release chapters for those, and maybe they'll even hit Royal Road at some point.
So when working on
especially Necromancer, I like that one.
Okay. So when working on two fiction, this is my question. When working on two fictions, do you find it more difficult? Keep the two fictions separate when writing?
My memory is pretty horrible anyway, so I rely on notes. So I've got pretty extensive notes.
Okay.
For both stories. So every time I need to I sit down to start writing anything, I have to like check my notes. What was that character's name again? What did they do? What have they done?
Ah, well, I'm not that much better. That's why I read other people's stories. I don't have to remember anything. Just read it out loud.
It's a bit of a nightmare. Like it's pretty embarrassing how bad it is as well. Like literally every time I need to mention one of the Council of 20 in Chrysalis. I have to double check their name.
And how tired are you of people pointing out that you've got to?
People pointing out that I've got what?
Two of them. To name two of the council.
Ah,
Because I've seen that in the Discord a couple times.
yeah, yeah, I know. I'm a bit tired of it.
It's called Forget Ant and Unforgettable Ant.
True. Just don't worry about it, Ant.
Yeah. They'll be mentioned at some later point. It's a plot point. An added feature, not a bug. Or it is a bug. Whatever you want. Okay.
Yeah, the issue was I didn't name them in the initial chapter.
Yeah.
I only put 18 ants in. But on my spreadsheet, all 20 were there. And the other two have been mentioned since. There were 4 soldiers in total. But there were only 2 in the initial chapter where they were named.
Oh.
So Grant died, and the other 3 are Leroy, Advant, and Brendan. And it was Advant and Brendan that weren't named in that chapter, but they have popped up since.
Okay. Yeah. And then who are the generals?
The generals are Victor and Sloane.
Okay. Just refreshing my memory, because, not great memory.
Oh man, I forget as well. Don't even worry about it.
And I didn't even write it, so, I mean, that's not...
You didn't even write it. You got a much better excuse.
Second, just doing a quick change. The chat, hopefully... on the stream, it's just disappearing very quickly. So hopefully it'll be a bit slower now. Okay, next question. Blah blah. By what you've been hinting with the ants, they will one day become one with the main superpowers of the world. That is true. How do you treat other sentient races that they will come to conquer? Will be the same as the first city that they captured? Will they be more ruthless? Will they put some form of federal government in place? Or just a feudal king or feudal kind of... where it is. Okay, so how are they going to rule? Are they going to take over? And are they going to treat humans like they did in the first city?
Getting into the late game
Yeah.
questions. I mean, without giving too much away, the colony's going to grow and become more powerful over time, as you would expect. In general, I think their leadership style is going to be hands off or mandibles off.
So similar to Ryla.
Pretty much, as they can get away with. Like, they will have to step in sometimes.
Well, that makes sense. With any large form group, you would have to have some management, even if it's minimal.
Well, yeah. If there's loose boundaries, then the boundaries will be pushed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't see the colony responding very kindly.
No.
To boundary pushing, because they wouldn't do it themselves.
Yeah. And Grizzly wants to know, are we close to the end?
No. No.
The last time we spoke, you said 2,000 chapters, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I did. I'm still aiming for 2,000.
So you're almost halfway.
Getting there?
35%.
I'm going to get more Gandalf.
Yeah, Gandalf. Okay, so just grab some from the chat. How do you create so many realistic characters? How do you create so many realistic characters?
So many realistic characters. Man, that's a tough question.
Broke my chat.
Because I feel like characterization is really hard to do, and I don't necessarily think that I do it particularly well. Having consistent character traits, I think, is important. Like in my notes for every character, I have some notes on their personality and what they're like. So when it comes time to write some text from that character, I can try and be consistent. And I
Okay.
think that helps.
Okay, that makes sense.
Otherwise, it'd be way too hard to keep track of.
Well, it is quite a large cast of characters. I mean, I think you got over 30 main cast.
Yeah, and you don't want to have the novel spiral out of control into like 10,000 points of view,
Yeah.
or have so many named characters that it just becomes dizzying attempting to keep up with them all.
Yeah. Then it's just too many to cope with, both for writing and reading.
Yeah, that's right. Like when I was writing the sort of Golgari point of view, and therefore, like I wanted to have more depth and more characters and more interplay, but in the end, I just tried to keep it as simplified and as few characters as possible, so it wasn't difficult to keep track of.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, I didn't want to weigh the story down.
Yeah.
It was taking that long to get through that arc anyway.
Yeah, and then you got to come up with a unique naming style per species, and then you may never use those characters again.
Yeah, that's right.
Will Anthony ever become a queen?
No.
That was from Quantum Katsuni. So no queen.
Sorry, Quantum. He will not. He will never become a queen. I don't think I'm spoiling much there.
He doesn't get wings either, as far as I know. You said no the last time.
I did say no the last time to wings. I didn't. Oh yeah, I didn't plan on it at the time. At the moment, I don't have any immediate plans for him to get wings.
How many strata deep does the dungeon actually go? Infinite.
I reserve.
Infinite.
I reserve the right to remain silent.
Plus one.
It's not infinite.
I know
It's not infinite.
It's many much stratas.
There is a finite number of strata.
Many much plus one.
And by the end of the story, he will get to the middle.
Okay. There we go. He will get to the core.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Shock, gasp, horror.
Yeah, I know, right? It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Okay, so another one from the post is I noticed that you don't appear in the comments anymore, unlike in the beginning. Is there a reason for it, or did it just happen? And they're not. They put a PS in here, and it's like it's not in bad spirits. I can understand life and the internet can lead to different behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, I did when I first started posting on webnovel.com. I was on the comments pretty regularly, answering questions and stuff like that. In the end, now I'm posting on like 3 different pages and on Patreon. So it's really hard to keep. And I have a Discord, which is relatively active.
Yeah.
It's hard to pay attention to everything, and still have enough time just for writing.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend hours combing through comments and then responding, but if you want to create content, you kind of have to at some point switch off.
Yeah, like I made a commitment to myself that I would read every review that was posted, and I did that for a long time. I read every review on Royal Road, good and the bad, it's all fine, and every review on Webnovel. But at the moment on Webnovel, there are 2,271 reviews.
And that is a lot of reviews.
So I have not caught up on there for a while.
I think
Go
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, a few days ago, I went back and read through the comments. Like when there's particularly like exciting or interesting chapters, I like to try and read the comments for those. Even if I don't post anything, I do read them.
So, random question on my part. Do you ever use the comment suggestions in your story? Like somebody says, "Oh, I'd love to see this," and you'd be like, "Oh, that's a good idea, actually."
Oh yeah, I shamelessly steal all the time. That's great.
So you heard it here first. If you make a good enough comment, it'll be included into the novel.
Well, on Patreon, I've done polls for like, okay, what sort of thing would you like me to write as a reward? Like, which little point of view side story would you like me to write as a reward for reaching this milestone? And people suggest some really good things sometimes.
Okay.
Um, and I'm like, oh man, that's excellent. And sometimes I sit down and I need like, oh, I need to come up with 2 or 3 more suggestions for this poll. And just sometimes I come up with some really good stuff, which never would have come to me if I just kept writing normally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an idea factory. It causes or forces you to think outside the norm.
Well, yeah, it sits you down and you have to sit there and just spend time thinking about, all right, well, what would the audience love to read? You know, what would be really interesting and exciting for the audience? And you get some really good ideas.
And I suppose you also just throw out some left wing things just to throw out left wing things, and sometimes those take off.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, I wonder if people will be interested in this. Oh, it turns out they're definitely interested in it.
Cool.
Like, I'm overdue to do another reward poll. If there's any patrons in the audience, I know we didn't do one for 600. We're almost at 700 now, so
Dumb, dumb,
well
dumb.
overdue.
A double one.
I'm considering doing an extended point of view story from the inner circle of the sleep police in the colony.
Okay, okay, and that could be funny.
I think I think that would be popular.
Next question. The humor and character of Anthony was changing over the last 700 chapters somewhat. Also, the involvement of Gandalf seems to have disappeared. Is that deliberate, or is it because the duration of writing the book? And if it's something which is because of the duration, would you correct it when you finish it and edited the version?
That's deliberate. Um, voices are kind of pleasant. Thank you, Jean Thomas Fidalgo. I appreciate that. It's a soothing accents.
Yeah.
Um,
Foreigners. Foreigners!
it was a deliberate thing. One of the biggest complaints that came up really often, and I know I try not to respond to people's complaints because people have likes and dislikes. That's fine. You're never going to please everybody, and it's pointless to try. But it came up a lot. Was that in the first 50 or chapters or so, I used Gandalf way too much.
Hmm.
Um, which was kind of because in Anthony's inner monologue, he didn't have anyone to talk to,
And he
so
latched onto it.
he spent most of his time like whinging about the system and blaming Gandalf for his circumstances.
So for my chat, which or audience, I've been playing some games and we were talking about Wilson from Castaway. Basically, Gandalf was Anthony's Wilson.
Absolutely, he was. And yeah, and as Gabe in the chat just pointed out, like once he meets up with the colony and once they become sentient and more communicable, he doesn't need that crutch anymore. So he doesn't talk to the quote unquote Gandalf in his head
Yeah,
nearly as much because he doesn't need to.
which is fair enough.
But yeah, I feel like I can. So I was very gun shy for a while of using it because of how many negative comments and reviews I got. But I feel like I'll bring it back. I need more beard references.
Yeah, and smoke.
What was that? Smaug or smug?
Smoke.
Oh,
Because of the
smoke.
smoking, the puffing of the pipe.
Yeah, yeah. The smoke ship.
Yeah. Okay, will there be any more reincarnations in the world?
Any more reincarnators? Yeah, definitely.
So that was from Jonathan Jagger.
There's a bunch of them out there.
I'm just trying to. If you want me to see a question easier, just at me in the chat, so then my eye can pick it up while we're reading. Yeah. More side character POVs, maybe the trees and the folk. So this is talking about more extra bonus content, I think. Are you going to be doing any more of that stuff? I think you just answered
Yeah,
that.
definitely. There will be more point of view chapters. Like it's not like the rest of the novel from here on out is all going to be Anthony's point of view. But I do try to keep a lid. I try hard to keep a lid on the number of side chapters. Like sometimes it's better to tell the story from another character's point of view because Anthony may not be doing anything exciting and the action is somewhere else. But I
Mm.
don't want to do it too much because I find a lot of novels, especially web novels, can get really bogged down um, in too many side chapters.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes different point of views of the same situation can work because it shows you how people interpret the situation differently. But if you're giving information, critical information to the audience through the POV that the main story doesn't have, that can lead to, I think, a bit of a discontent with the main story.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm looking at doing side chapters, I'm always thinking, is this interesting to the audience? Does it advance the story? Um, and if not, then I probably shouldn't be doing a side, a change of POV. I should just stick with Anthony and keep advancing the story. Because it advances slowly enough as it is. We don't need to keep dragging it down.
Hmm. Well, Bruce wants to know if you can put in a good word for him because he got banned on Royal Road for making fun of authors. I've
He got
got
banned on.
absolutely no pull on Royal Road.
I don't think I do either. How do you even get banned from Royal Road?
I think it's from leaving comments and reviews. I'm not entirely sure.
Um,
Uh,
Search deep inside yourself and answer the question. Did you deserve it?
yeah,
Did you deserve it though?
like I said, I've got zero pull with Royal Road, so I can't do anything.
No, listen, not going to listen to me. Paulina Guevara. Don't know why people are complaining about Gandalf. I miss him, and I think it's fun to read his interactions with Anthony. I mean, every time Anthony evolves, or, the next time he evolves, he will have a chat with the real, actual Gandalf again. Um,
Okay.
but I
Can
think
any?
we were more talking about like the when Anthony talks to Gandalf just in his own head.
Yeah, because there's two different Gandalfs. There's the one that's just the generic system, and then there's the one that specifically is actually engaging in conversation with him.
Mm. Yeah, so that will return. That will return soon. He's going to evolve pretty soon.
Okay. Can any monster species evolve and become a queen mother variant?
No.
Because I think that's in relation to the queens and also Garalash, who became the mother of her species.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a universally available mutation or evolution. That is to say,
Is it something that is for reincarnators?
no. Otherwise, the queen would be a reincarnator.
Yeah, but I mean, they're
She's
talking specifically of a non-queen species evolving to become a queen species or variant.
well, the conditions to do so. Um, I mean, this is not giving too much away. So you'd need to be a species which is capable of reproduction normally. And I mean, most animal-based monsters in the first strata are those type of monsters because they're just monstrous versions of normal animals.
Yeah.
The second thing you need is to have a high enough cunning stat that you can manually evolve.
Okay.
Uh, if you don't have a high enough cunning stat to manually evolve, like Anthony does, he gets to pick and choose everything rather than just have like pre-generated.
Hmm.
So most species don't have a pre-generated queen evolution. They would have to manually select that,
Okay.
which Garalosh obviously did.
Yeah. But she was a amphibian species or a reptilian species, so laying eggs.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, most of the species in the first strata are variants of a natural creature, whereas the deeper you go, the weirder and more wild they get.
Fair enough. They would be more saturated in mana.
Yeah, that's right. And less based on things that are living organisms.
Jonathan Jagger says, I hope we see more of the Grove Keep.
More of the Grove Keeper? Yep, you will see more of the Grove Keeper.
And what are the sophists doing during the war?
They are keeping their heads down.
I can imagine they don't want to get the ire of the Legion because they're considered monsters.
They are considered monsters, so they try not to poke their heads up too much. They've got enough on their plate.
Okay, and that was are we getting more Gandalf? We answered that.
Tiny point of view. At some point, yeah, I can do a tiny point of view.
It'll be a one word. Oh. Smash. Oh. There you go. Here's the chapter. Done.
Yeah, that's right.
It has to be 500 words, though.
Smash. The end. Hollow Knight crossover, and is it any form of inspiration? I've not read Hollow Knight, if that's a novel.
It's not ringing any bells.
Or is that a game? Honestly, I don't know.
I'm going to take a couple more questions from live chat, and then we'll move back to the community post. Where were we? Anthony's not going to become a queen. Jack Cunningham asked, didn't he get the option during one evolution to become a queen?
He did, yeah.
But he mentally won't choose it. Not in his character.
No. He had the option. He does not want to do that. I don't think he would be comfortable with the idea of spending his time giving birth. Or laying eggs, more accurately.
Or sitting still.
Yeah, that's right. Just sitting in the nest.
Good question.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good question from CDog084 is why did you start Chrysalis?
Why did I start Chrysalis? I've always been a big reader. I always read a lot. And then you get busy with life and work and kids and everything, and you stop reading because you don't have time anymore. And then I kind of, being a fan of anime kind of leads you to reading manga. And then I started to run into the manga adaptations of some famous web novels.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out, this manga that I think is interesting is actually based on a web novel. I should see if I can find the web novel and then read it, which I did. And then I just started reading more and more web novels until I was reading them all the time. Because they're so portable, you can read them wherever.
Yeah.
It's just on your phone or on your computer or whatever. So I was reading and reading and reading and reading, and then I started to think, wow, like there's a lot of. I feel like I could write like this. It wasn't like I was reading a professionally published novel.
No.
The level of writing felt a lot more accessible to me, and I was like, yeah, I can write. I think I could write this well. I don't think this is out of reach. In fact, a lot of these are translations, and they're not that great. I could probably write better than a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I was mainly reading sort of Chinese and Japanese novels on sites like Wuxia World.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could probably produce something that's at a better level than this. May as well have a crack. So I did. And one of my favorite novels that sort of didn't turn out the way I would have liked was Kumo Desika Manika. I'm a spider, so what? I really enjoyed the first part of that, and then sort of later on, like when she's a monster in the labyrinth or whatever, and she's going around doing her business. I thought that was really, really entertaining. And then later on, she sort of gets a human form and becomes like super all powerful and goes to the surface and just sort of it turns very normal after that. She's just walking around in a human body, essentially. And I was like, yeah, it was way more interesting at the start. It was way more interesting at the start when she was a monster and she was in the dungeon doing monster stuff.
Yeah.
So I will try and write that sort of story the way I thought it should have been done, where it just stayed that way. And
Okay.
that's why I started Chrysalis.
Well, I think that's a common thing for any lit RPG, portal, isekai, whatever you want to call it, where they become a non-human or non. I don't want to say sentient. I want to say non-traditional species. So they become a sentient version of a something, whether it be a fork or a spider or an ant or a rock or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the first thing they want to do is become human. Which I think that actually ties back to like one of the early chapters where, Gandalf said, we only bring broken people here.
Yeah.
For me, that's like, okay, he was a broken human. Why would he want to be a broken human again?
Yeah, they're the people who don't really care too much. Or at least they're more likely to not care.
Yeah.
That they're no longer human. They have a higher success rate.
So can monsters mutate their own cores?
No.
No.
Improve your core by making it stronger, but you can't make it mutable where you can add mutations to your own core.
So
It's not.
you have
It's not
core
biological.
shapers, and then you've got pet trainers. So these are two separate skill trees, as far as I understand.
Yep.
And you can do slightly. Can you do the same thing to a core, like just a core, or can you modify somebody else's core like Anthony did to the Queen?
When you say so what the core shapers do is they take a core that's been collected from a monster and then they attempt to change it and improve it. And if they like it, they'll summon it as a pet. So although those skill trees are separate, you can invest in both, right?
Yeah, but could you do it with a living creature without having to resummon it, like Anthony did with the Queen?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, but you can't do your
Yeah,
own.
you can. But no, you can't modify your own core. But um, if you wanted to have pets without messing around with cores, like you just wanted to keep a live monster and then make it a pet, there's a taming skill tree which has not been investigated.
Okay, well, I would imagine the colony hasn't investigated a significant portion of the trees because they just don't know they exist.
Well, they probably won't bother. I mean,
Well, they're ants. They, from what I've seen, everything they push to the nth degree. So if they find a new tree, they're gonna push it to the nth degree.
yeah, pretty much.
Which is where Smith Ant came from. Was
Yeah.
something that everybody regarded was irrelevant, but they wanted to see how far that tree went.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
question from me: is Smith Ant the second hero class after Vibrant?
Oh, is she a champion?
Yeah.
No, she's not. But there will be another one soon.
Okay, you heard it here first. New champion. Gonna be a squirrel, runs around the dungeon, shouts loud stuff loudly.
It's going to be a very aggravated squirrel.
Yes, well, it's in a dungeon, so I mean, I would be aggravated too, personally, if I was stuck in a dungeon.
It's not a great environment to live.
No, no, no. Or at least not for long. Okay,
I saw somebody agree. So somebody agreed with me about Kumo. Yeah.
for me, there was a very big shift in the power ceiling. It reached a point where it just escalated so fast that it was difficult to
Yeah.
attach with it. And then it's around about the same period as where it became that she was human.
Yeah, I hate that. I really hate that where they escalate too fast. It's one of the biggest drawbacks, I think, because you don't get to enjoy one of the one of the best things about web novels, being long form storytelling, is you get to be tag along for the whole ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You don't you don't need to have the power montage. We can be part of it. We can read it as it happens, and we can grow with the character as they power up. And so many web novels, that climb is way too steep.
I think
It's
that it's a very difficult balancing act between moving at a pace that everybody stays interested and moving at a too fast or a too slow of a pace where people will get bored or you write yourself into a corner.
Yeah, I think it is very easy to write yourself into a corner. But I don't think you can write yourself into a corner going too slowly or pulling the pace down a little bit. Like I think if anything in Chrysalis, it'll probably accelerate from this point on. I would have dragged out the early stage rather than the later stage.
Well, setting up a decent base for the story. And if you've got a decent base set up, then you can just use that as a reference. And then instead of explaining it again, you just say, look, it's this thing that you're supposed to know because you read this thing 6 months ago or whatever.
Mm.
Or go read it again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Or
Okay, Hollow
go
Knight's
and listen to the narration. That makes life easy.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, Hollow Knight is a game apparently. Yeah, I haven't played it. Sorry. So no, it was not an influence.
Um,
Why is Anthony the only one that gets itchy during a mutation? I'm not saying.
so I don't know about Rhino, but I suspect Rhino is like me, and we're both old, and we may not know
Yeah,
everything like related to memes and current games. And by current, I mean the last 10 years.
yeah, I'm older than I sound. Why don't Anthony's pets help him scratch during mutations? He's too embarrassed.
And then, how do you scratch inside a carapace?
Yeah, if he's mutating his muscles or something, you can't really scratch. With his eyes, I wouldn't recommend scratching them.
No, not too hard. Do people of Renewal know about the reincarnation thing? Is it a secret or is it common knowledge?
It's not common knowledge. Like it's not a secret for dungeon societies, because it's something that anybody who's been in the dungeon long enough is going to know about, because they'll meet somebody who knows, or
Well, I mean, we've
eventually they'll
encountered
come across.
four already.
Exactly. Um, but for most of the people in Renewal, they were farmers, they were merchants, they were craftsmen of the surface, so most of them don't know.
Okay. Will the colonies find their own way to remove the mana veins, or will they copy other nations' methods?
Um, I'll just say that in the upcoming chapters, they figure out a way. It's it's already
Spoilers.
published on
Okay,
it's already published on Patreon. I
so there
wasn't
you
gonna
go.
see. Wasn't sure whether or not to say anything there, but yeah.
So it will happen soon, but if you really, really want to read it, it's on Patreon on which tier?
You'll need to go to the $10 tier.
Okay. So if you're very interested, that's what, 10 chapters ahead? 20 chapters?
That's 25.
So that's the one that's hitting 700s, which is why we're basically 34 chapters early on my channel. But
Yeah,
I don't do the Patreon chapters because that would be,
that would
well,
be illegal.
yeah. I don't have permission
Yeah,
to
I'm
those, and it would be very spoilerish for normal people.
695 is where we're up to.
There we go. Uh,
Um,
I feel
I sound young. Thank you. Thank you.
it,
Thank you, Bruce.
I'm still at the point pre people actually atting me, so I have to read each comment.
Yeah, I'm just.
Somebody said, I believe you started this for your son, if I'm right. How are they? So somebody's asking about how your kids are doing.
My sons are very good. They're very, very good. They're great, great boys. Um, certainly a lot more sort of got their act together than I was when I was a kid. I'm
Yeah,
very proud of them.
that's good.
But no, I didn't initially write it for my youngest, but I sort of wanted to try and keep it at a level where it was appropriate for him to read.
Which I think going forward in the new landscape of digital media, more and more kids are going to be partaking in content both on like YouTube and web novels and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think it depends on how sort of mercenary you want to be as an author. Because if you're just interested in people who are going to sign up for your Patreon or whatever, you're going to feel comfortable making more adult content
Yeah,
because the kids aren't really relevant on the financial side.
that's true. Well, not
But
today,
for
but there may be in 10 years.
yeah, perhaps who knows. But for Chrysalis, I kind of wanted to keep at least the language relatively clean. I didn't I didn't see much of a reason for swearing. Certainly, obviously, no reason for anything sexual.
I mean, it's just odd at all for an Australian not to swear, but once you get past that, it's okay.
Yeah, we do exist. We do exist.
Very rare breed, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can acknowledge that.
I think the only group of people on the planet that swear more than limeys is Australians.
Yeah, it's extremely common. Will Tiny have a chance to improve his intelligence? Yeah, the dumber he got. Yeah. So Anthony's going to have to be very careful with Tiny the next time he evolves. In my head canon, like the reason you didn't see many more evolved versions of Tiny is just because they became so stupid they just killed themselves.
Well, it makes
So they
sense.
never survived. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. So they started off as like the mini spark apes, and then they got into those huge gorillas
and then they
at
just forgot to breathe or something.
yeah, at tier 2, and then they get evolved for tier 3, and they became such hulked muscles with such tiny brains. They literally were incapable of surviving long enough to reach tier 4.
Too busy fighting each other.
Yeah, just like getting offended at their own face and punching themselves to death or something. Like it's just
Yeah. So can
in my mind
monsters?
that's how
Sorry.
in my mind that's how it went.
Okay.
The only reason Tiny survived is because his core was maxed out, and so he
And
was
he
able
got
to buff his
nagged to
stats.
death to live.
Yeah, he got babied into living.
So would a core be considered a part of a monster, and could it be mutated like other parts?
No, it's the only part of them which isn't organic.
Okie dokie. So now I'm actually caught up to the ats, so it should make life easier.
Okay.
Okay, will the colony get a flag or a symbol, or they're just going to use the eldest's image
I think it would be likely they would just use the image of Anthony's head
for
that they had
everything
engraved.
forever?
Yeah, for everything. Yeah, exactly. Like they engraved it on the gates. They'll just keep using that.
Will Anthony ever find other ant colonies, giant wasps, giant hornets, or maybe even giant termites? And if so, will there be diplomacy or will they be mindless?
Um, I think we asked a similar question last
Yeah,
time.
I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah, I've always wanted them. I just sort of I haven't been able to squeeze it in. I've always wanted them to run into another colony. I think at this stage, I'd probably have them do it like quite deep, and they'll
Hmm,
run into like a super mega powerful colony of maybe demon termites or like
I think
uh,
wasps.
mythic ghost termites or wasps or something like that.
I mean, you have had centipedes and spiders, but I mean, neither of those are really colonies.
No, yeah, that's the thing. We want to have colony v colony.
Yeah.
The Battle of the Insect. Yeah, I definitely want to do that. How many chapters do you plan to write? Yeah, I'm aiming for around 2,000. And I'm always wanting to write more novels. Every time I read a web novel, I want to write a web novel.
I could write something like that, easy. I'll just put it on top of my all the other stuff I have to write.
Well, it's like, what was I reading? I mean, before I started writing Necromancer, I was reading some, Necromancer stories are pretty common, right, in web novels. There's a lot of them, and they go across all the different sort of regions of the world that write web novels. Like, there's lots of Necromancer Western ones, there's Necromancer Korean ones, there's Necromancer Chinese ones. And I was just thinking to myself, in none of these, because it's usually the massive power trip. Like, not only can they summon skeletons out of their butt and raise ghosts with a wrinkle of their eyebrow, they're also a master swordsman with great armor, who godly defensive skills. It's the full on thing. And I was like, no man, if I was going to write a necromancer story, he's going to be a pure necromancer. It's always going to be all about the summons. It's going to be all about the bones.
Well,
He's not going to be a swordsman. He's not going to have any of these godly skills.
there's a
He's
story
going to be a
called
freaking
Thief Lord. It's one of the ones I've narrated, where the dude starts off as a necromancer character, and like you said, he was pure necromancer, and he gets shanked in the first 10 chapters because he wasn't playing it properly as a character.
To me, that's the necromancer I want, right? I want my necromancer to just focus on raising the best dead they possibly can, and that's it. And so I had that thought, and I was like, okay, well, that novel doesn't exist as far as I can tell. Maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
There are thousands out there, so it's hard to keep track of what does and doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's impossible to know, right? But to my mind, right, I was like, I don't think that novel exists, but it would be really fun to write. So I started writing it, and that's where that novel came from. And it happens every time I sit down to read.
Well, at least you got a backlog of ideas.
I've got so many. I was reading today. What have I been reading? I was rereading a story that was on Royal Road. It was very popular on Royal Road for a little while. Arrogant Young Master Template A Variation 4.
I actually enjoyed that.
It was excellent. It was such a good setup.
Mm.
I really, really loved it, and I read it like a whole bunch of times, when there weren't that many chapters. And there was a while there where I was just like refreshing every day, waiting for more chapters to come out.
It's a very good perspective shift on well, not stale genre, but a well-worn path.
Yeah, it's a well-worn path, but he did a really good job, like spinning it and keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
And then I think the story just kind of fell out of control, just slipped out of his hands.
I haven't read it in a while.
Oh, it's on hiatus. It hasn't been touched in ages.
I'm kind of mushes together for me.
Yeah, I bet. But I really love that concept, and I was just thinking to myself, I wouldn't write it the same way. Like, I wouldn't do such a heavy comedic bent, but I would really like to do cultivate a story from the teacher perspective, right? Where the person has to teach.
Yeah.
Rather than cultivate themselves.
And
I would keep them weak. You know what I mean? Like, I would make sure they stay weak.
There is one.
Yeah, what's that?
The Library of Heaven.
Sort of Library of Heaven's Path.
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
No, he doesn't stay weak. He becomes all powerful.
I know he gets stronger, but he's still not as strong as everybody else. And his only strength was because he could find their weakness.
Yeah, but I don't know. Have you finished reading that?
No. As we were discussing before the stream, I haven't read anything outside of my narrations in a long time.
Yeah, he just continuously climbs the power curve all the way up, and he becomes an expert of everything.
That seems to happen quite regularly with most web novels and manga. They start off with anything, and then they end up as a battle manga.
Yeah. Well, that's often because they're going to get cancelled. So they're like, okay, we'll switch to battle manga because this isn't working.
Well, we'll write a story about chefs. Well, then we'll make it a battle manga. You know, that'll make it interesting. Or bread, or
it'll sell. But that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking like something like Library of Heaven's Path, where it's all about being a teacher, but the main character stays weak
fair
the
enough.
whole way through. Like they express their power through their disciples. I was like, maybe that would be interesting.
Mm.
And I was just thinking about that today.
So kind of like the old man in the hills, but he's weak.
Yeah, but he's actually like secretly crippled and weak.
Mm.
But he just becomes a godly teacher. And so his power curve is not like becoming a mega strong cultivator. His power curve is like improving his ability to impart knowledge. He just gets better and better and better and better at it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe throw a system in there. Why not?
Systems keep everything orderly.
It's true. I don't know. They're such a good hook. You know, they're such a good hook.
It helps you express growth in a way that is difficult to express in a non-fighting situation or a non-action situation. So you can say, you know, this person's gotten stronger, he can pick up a bigger rock, but how do you describe someone's gotten smarter? He can solve the math problem faster. But if you can say, well, his intelligence went up by 3, you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like even Wuxia novels have the exact same thing. They just express it in a different way. Like you have the cultivation realms.
Yeah.
And, you know, the stages of comprehension. You know, it's always tiered. It's always leveled.
And diminishing returns.
Clearly expressed progress. Yeah. And so progress can always be clearly expressed in web novels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So will Anthony get another pet?
No.
No other pet planned.
That's a big spoiler, I guess.
I don't think so.
No. To get more, I don't know if I actually mentioned this in the novel. I think I did at one stage very, very dismissively. To have more than 3, you need to buy a skill and start leveling it. So
Vaguely remember something? Yes.
Yeah, I think I did. So for every pet you want to add after the 3rd, you need to buy the skill and rank it up.
Ah, okay. One was asking about what web novels you like and recommend. I think we've been discussing that. So if you had to recommend one web novel that isn't your own, what would it be?
I think I was asked the exact same question last time, and I said Worm.
Okay.
But
we changed our mind.
There are so many. I mean, Worm's not for everybody because I don't remember the name of the author. They are an excellent, excellent author, but their stories are relentlessly, soul-crushingly negative.
Yeah, because there's a couple continuation series as well.
The main character does not have a good time. Things do not go well. And they only get worse. So if you can't handle that, if that's not your cup of tea, do not read.
If I would make a suggestion, but I wasn't asked the question, but I'll answer it anyway. I'd say go read Fork This Life. It is on hiatus at the moment, but it is. If you enjoy Chrysalis, you'll enjoy Fork This Life.
That's a good one. I like Fork This Life.
I think there was a nice hidden gem on Royal Road.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. You can't find. I mean, the Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yeah.
Is an excellent novel, but the author is going down the road where, like, once a volume is finished, he takes it off Royal Road and publishes it as a book on Amazon. So if you want to read it from the beginning, you'd have to buy it on Amazon, I think.
I think there are a couple that actually do that.
There's quite a few people that do that. I don't get it. I don't think I'll ever do that. I'm not going to do that with Chrysalis or anything like that. But
I do know just a random bit of information that if you release it on Kindle Unlimited, you sign away
Yeah.
audio rights to it.
Mm.
So, for
I,
instance, I would not be able to narrate it if it was on Kindle Unlimited.
well, I certainly wouldn't do that to you.
No, I'm just talking in general.
But Dungeon Crawler Carl is an excellent read. Check it out. But yeah, you would have to buy the first volume. As for things that are free, magic smithing is really fun. Defiance of the Fall is nice, sort of chewy. You know, not don't have to think too hard. Very chewy.
Hmm.
If you want to get into the world of Wuxia novels, like translated Chinese works, um, anything by I Eat Tomatoes is a good example of what you can see out there. The one that I first read was Coiling Dragon,
Yeah.
um, which has a manga. You can read the manga if you want. Um,
I also know that Bookseer.com was hiring American accented voice actors. So take that however you want.
there you go. On Royal Road, like Super Minion is one of my favorites. It's so good. I really wish there was more of it.
Unfortunately, that was always the case with novels that you enjoy. There's never enough.
No. Well, with that one, like the release, nothing against the author or anything. The release schedule is brutally slow. But it is such a well-written book. Really, really great. There is no epic loot here, only puns. That's a great dungeon story.
Yeah, and the author's working on second fiction as well, but I don't think it's on Royal Road. It's called The Gamer. I've been meaning to go check it out.
I had not heard.
I think it's on spacebattles.com. Take that with a pinch of salt. But there is a second fiction and a third, I think, as well. So the author alternates between releasing them on different platforms.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't mind a bit of smut or whatever, you can always read Everybody Loves Large Chests. That one's got sort of a lot of hardcore violence and sort of R18 content, so be forewarned.
Yeah.
But it is a good read.
Oh. I'm sure this list could go on forever.
Yeah, I can. I could recommend friggin' a million.
Okay. Somebody's asking, would you
I love
ever
web novels, guys.
say that again?
I love web novels, guys. There's a lot of great ones out there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is some searching you need to do to find the good ones, but
You do need to do a bit of digging.
yeah. Will there be a manga of Chrysalis or an anime?
I would love to hire an artist and start to make a manga. Like that would be so cool. Um, I'm sort of at the moment I'm trying to work up the motivation to start digging around and looking for artists to hire because I want to start producing like a lot of art that I can put into the book when I publish it.
Makes
Um,
sense. So sort of like a
it would be,
bestiary.
like even just having like a proper hard copy of a light novel. They usually have little inserts and pictures and stuff
Hmm.
of the characters. So I'd love to have that. And if I could go further and start like actually having them make pages of a manga, that'd be really cool. I'd love that.
All right.
But it's more of a dream than a plan. More of a dream than a plan.
I mean, it does. The cost comes quite significant when you're bringing artists in, even with a manga.
Yeah. Have I written a necromancer story? I have started one, Jonathan Jagger. It's only about 10 chapters long at the moment. But the chapters are about 3,000 words each, so it's about 30,000 words.
Which is a decent sized read.
Yeah.
Okay, do you base your sentient cultures based on other books or real communities, or do you just imagine them and create them?
Um, Well, I'm drawing influence from somewhere, but generally I'm not trying too hard to go directly at any one influence in particular. Like with with the folk, for example, I was mainly with the name, mainly poking fun at the people from the novel. What's it called? Can't remember.
Novel unknown.
What's it bloody called? I haven't read it in a few months.
I don't know. It's not ringing bells to me, but it is also early, so not much is ringing bells to me.
Yeah, it's very early for you, buddy. My word, it was very popular on. It was often up the top. Savage Divinity, that's the one.
Okay.
Savage Divinity.
Will any of the ants ever revolt?
Ah, jeez, I can't give that away. What?
Spoilers.
I can neither rule in or out.
And then the next one was, will the new champion go against the colony, which is the same sort of question. So
That is the exact same.
TBD.
I can't give it away, guys. I can't say.
When is there going to be a psychologist ant for the PTSD berserker bear?
Yeah, I wonder if they can mutate in a way that makes that better.
An Antvanian Pavlov, if you will, is the end part of that question.
That's that's an interesting suggestion. Maybe I will have to include that now.
Just
Sigmund Freudian.
Sure. Sigmund.
Yeah, there we go. I knew the pun was in there somewhere.
Yeah, easy to find. I think Anthony could use the core crafting skill to fuse monster cores with his own in order to make him bigger. But you said that you can't work on your own core.
No, you can't work on your own core.
So could he get somebody else to work on his core? Not that he would or trust them, but
yeah, he could. Yeah, but considering his core is the product of his own decisions. You know what I mean? Like
it's a custom core.
It's a custom core. Through all of his evolutions, he's the one making all the decisions. So he wouldn't want anything changed.
Will we see naturally spawning Formica sapiens in the dungeon, like spawn points and such?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to include that or not. Because does the dungeon want them spawned? That's the question.
Okay, apparently there's a Kumo anime. Have you checked it out?
I've not watched the Kumo anime. I know it was made in a 3D. They did it in a 3D animated style, but I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, just got to go back to the post, grab some questions from there. Can we take a look back at the backstory of Anthony and his mental health of him and his pets?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep dripping. I'm gonna keep dripping that out.
Okay. Who's your favorite Chrysalis character and why?
Jeez, that's hard.
Difficult questions.
Honestly, I don't know. Because I like different characters for different reasons.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have created them.
Oh yeah, really. Like, I actually remember reading like a lot of books by authors, and I always found it weird that they sympathize so much with the villains and stuff. They often do. But I find myself the same way. Often a lot of characters that the community hates, I actually don't mind.
Yeah, fair enough. So when will there be a beach or a hot springs episode?
No.
Seeing as we've just recently hit the nosebleed trope, so
Oh, I actually copped a lot of flack for that. People were like, "Why did you put that in?" I was like, "Oh, come on."
It was funny.
It was just, you know, jeez, I don't lean on the tropes too heavily. I thought that was funny.
And I mean, it wasn't like the traditional kind of usage of it.
No, that's right.
And it wasn't overplayed or anything. I quite enjoyed it.
Is there going to be a POV of the ant that keeps making Anthony statues? Michelangelo ant.
Dun dun
Um,
dun.
that was a poll option on Patreon that it lost. It lost out to other options.
So maybe.
But I might do it one day. I would like to. As I say, I try not to do too much. I try not to weigh the story down too much. And I can't see a way to write a Michelangelo chapter that advances the story as a whole.
No. Unless it's an art competition arc, a tournament arc, or art.
A whole tournament arc
Yeah.
just for Michelangelo.
Yeah.
100 chapters long. No one would hate it.
And it's the sapient races on Pangea competing to see who's the best artist of them all.
Oh god.
And
Will I ever consider making a world
Michelangelo, like One Punch Man, has one trick, and he's just really good at it.
He's just so good at it. Will I ever consider making a world map? I actually started making one. And I made one of the Kingdom of Lyria, basically, like where the ants surface, where the capital is, where they relocate the nests to, and like where the village of renewal is. Like that section. I did make that map. I never published it anywhere.
Hmm. I imagine it helps you keep things in straight in your head where there are relative to other things.
Yeah, I actually found it super useful, so I started making one for Necromancer when I started writing it. So it's like got the little villages and the names of the ruins and stuff on it, just so I can sort of keep things straight and I can see it. Very, very useful to have. I've considered making one of the dungeon as well, but it's just no.
Too
It would take
large.
way too long. Too big and it would take too long. Like,
Okay. So next one is, are you going to go into more detail about the other societies in Pangea and sort of flesh them out and how they function, or are you going to leave it up to the interpretation of the reader?
like the deeper they go, the more the deeper they go, the more they're going to run into other societies, and the more I don't want to say politically involved, but the more sort of they have to consider the overall picture.
Hmm.
And then things are going to get a little more detailed at that time in terms of other races and other societies. Like, it's no secret. It won't be too long now. Once the siege is over, what's the next challenge? Eventually they're going to have to push down into the third strata. That's where we'll start encountering demon societies, and we'll have to come to grips with all that. And I'll have to come up with more names for characters, which I hate.
You should buy one of those baby naming books.
I mean, yeah, it's true.
You're
I'm really excited actually
just got a
to
list of
write.
names.
Yeah, actually, I did start writing a cultivation story, and I just basically did that. Like, I looked up,
The top 10
top
popular
500,
names.
top 500, Chinese baby names for boys and girls and their meanings. You know what I mean?
Just so you could find the right one.
Just so, and it's actually really fun doing that because you write in, you can make jokes in their names just based on the meanings.
Hmm. Okay,
And,
I'm just going through the post
fun.
to see if there's any more questions. Well, there are, just looking for ones that we haven't necessarily answered in our general conversation.
Yeah, go for it.
So you've shown that humans have eaten biomass, some of them. How do they end up? Do they take to it? Do they fully convert to monsters? Do they all die? Is it relevant to the overarching story? That sort of stuff.
It's not super relevant. So the only example we've had so far is the Legion takes prisoners who are slated for death. They take them down into the dungeon and they forcefully recruit them, I guess, and
Hmm.
they feed them. They feed them biomass. So what this does is it turns them into a half sapient, half monster, um, where they will lose access to their class, but they won't get cores. So they sort of become an in-between existence
Okay.
where they'll become physically powerful, but they will eventually just die. Uh,
So it's a boost at a cost.
it's a boost to the costs, yeah.
Super serious question here is how dummy thick is Isaac?
How thick is Isaac? Like, as in, how stupid is he?
No, dummy thick, which is bootylicious, I think would be a more relevant term to us.
Like, how attractive is he?
Well, thick is thick. I don't know how to explain it properly. It's
Thick, thick is like muscular, right? Like, he's chunky.
yeah, chunky would be. Dummy thick is, they got lots of junk in the trunk. Got a good booty.
Look, he's in good shape, man. He works out.
And can he get his twerk on?
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. Breaking news. Isaac can twerk with the best of them.
He's all about it. He's all about it. Is Anthony only going to get bigger through his evolutions? Yep. Yeah, one of the things that I decided with this novel is that the more powerful they get, in general, the larger they would get.
Compared to the original form.
Yeah. So we talked about this last time where I was specifically talking about
Yeah.
a reincarnated as a slime.
Yeah.
How against I was the fact that when the monsters evolved, they became smaller and sexier. Well, they just turned into sexy humans, basically.
Hmm.
How much I didn't like that. So the more powerful the monsters get, in general, generally speaking, because obviously Nvidia's quite small because he has his little pocket dimension thing, but in general, they will get bigger.
Oh. But you mean you can see that with Anthony and with Garrelash.
And the Queen as well. They've gotten larger every time.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're talking about, when we get down to the ancients, the 19 big bads, they were all very, very big.
Okay.
None of them is going to be like human size, human shaped, uber badass. They're all going to be like very monstrous, very large.
So would
Or
this also apply to humans, but in a more relative scale?
No, different for humans. They're not gonna. They don't physically change size.
Okay. Well,
You put on muscle, obviously, but you don't get like absurdly large.
okay. So you don't grow in it physically, not taller or
No,
bigger frame or anything like that.
no. Like Titus has monstrous physical stats, but he's not some sort of Hulk.
Well, more than what's reasonable for a human.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he's not absurdly large.
So will there be more side stories on technology or how the Ant-Mancers live and work with the colony?
There will be more stuff on the Ant-Mancers and how they develop and how they grow and like how their class evolves as they level it up. There will be more of that. Will Ben turn into Ant-Man? No, he won't.
When Anthony set up his colony, or the Sapiens, he only made a few custom evolutions for them. But we see what the ants evolve into after those. So, custom evolutions of the Council after that.
Yeah, so he sort of designed, when he was designing the core of the Queen, he only sort of pre-programmed the first two evolutions. Um, and after that, there's going to be a lot more diversity, and we're only just sort of getting to the point where there's like enough tier 4 ants that we can start exploring the different quote unquote builds.
Well, I mean,
Come out.
with every tier, it's exponentially more variety.
Well, yeah, and the colony, being the colony, they're going to try and explore and exhaust every opportunity before they find what they think is the best. So there's going to be a lot of diversity to start with.
And just
Will Anthony fall in love? I don't know, Donnie, actually. No plans to make it a love story.
well, it's either a battle manga or a love story. Those are the two common fates of web novels, or
Yeah,
both.
that's true. There's very, very few things that pull off both.
They try.
There's lots to try. I'm thinking kind of like Rocky, with Adrian.
Yeah.
The love story is there, but it's not the focus. I won't say never, but it's certainly not a plan. But I'm
Okay.
not sure. I'm not confident I can write that well enough.
Battle manga is easier. Just punch him in the head
Punch him, man.
and describe it for 20 chapters. Slow motion. What did the ants do with the calls of the dead ants?
What do the ants do with the cores of the dead ants?
Yeah.
They use them to reinforce the cores of the hatchlings.
Okay, so it has been recycled to improve the colony.
Yep. I've never explicitly stated that, but that's
Okay.
what they do.
So that is us caught up with the pre-done questions from before the stream. So now we can move on to pure stream questions. Remember, people, if you want me to easily read it, just at me in the chat, and I'll be able to pick up the questions easier.
Is Gandalf a system, or is he a bigger monster living deep in the dungeon? Yeah, can't answer that.
Oh, no answer. Will ants ever be capable of prophylaxis, meaning will they have community stomachs?
Well, they have communal stomachs already, so they are capable of prophylaxis, and I think there were examples of it early days. I considered for a while the colony having repletes, which is ants who basically turn themselves into a biological storeroom, in essence,
Okay.
and they just hang around in the nest. Uh, and
Walking
they're
fridges.
well, they don't move. They just hang from the roof basically, and their gasters expand to huge proportions, relative to their size. And they're just basically a storeroom for food, a living storeroom. But I thought that was a bit too weird.
It is a bit, but I mean, when you're comparing it to the ant world, but also nature, it's not that weird.
Will there be ants that copy Anthony's diamond shell? I thought about having ants copy his diamond shell, and I wasn't sure how Anthony would respond. Would he be flattered, or would he be offended?
Well, I'd imagine he would just, as long as he has the shiniest shell, he wouldn't mind.
That's true, yeah. As long as his was the shiniest, he would be okay with it.
The prettiest
In my
ant
mind,
of
I
them
kind of
all.
felt like most of the soldiers who are the most focused on physical defense would go for a more balanced defensive choice.
Yeah. And then you'll
Something that
have
helps
the immortals going the opposite way. They want the thinnest.
them. Not that it's going to help them.
No, no. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure we asked this before, but I'm guessing the Leroy is Leroy from Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
And he's just a suicidal. And that's the running joke.
That is the running joke. I mean, I initially just did it for the lols, basically, as a joke, and it just continues to grow.
Now it's a meme. So it's a level beyond joke.
Yep.
Do you
It's
like the...
meme.
Say again?
It's a meme of a meme.
Yeah. Do you like deep stratification of cultivation levels in web novels?
I do, because I mean that's in cultivation novels. Like that's their system. Most of the time that's their level, and it allows it's a very easy to understand way of describing um, people's strength, and it's a very very easy way of describing like your character's progression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, I've gone up 2 realms.
Two major
Now I'm
realms and
here.
one minor realm. Now I can face the gods.
Now I can do this thing to that person with my thunderous spear of the heavens, whatever.
I went and fought him and got beaten. Now I've got a training montage and I can go back and beat him.
Yeah, so I do like it. You know, I think that's fine. It makes something that's kind of nebulous, you know, individual strength, much more digestible, much more easy to understand. It's like in think of Dragon Ball Z when they introduced the Scouter, and you
Hmm.
could just measure people's quote unquote power level.
When you reach a realm where we don't have a reference to how strong they are, so you have to give us a reference how strong they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you know a human, an average human is like a 10 strength, and somebody with 100 strength comes around, you can basically go, okay, so they're significantly stronger. Without having to go into a whole side story just to explain how much stronger that person is.
Yeah, and you know, web novels are designed to be, for the most part, there's certainly plenty of very deep and complex ones out there, but for the most part, web novels are designed to be, you know, pulp fiction, designed to be digestible. They're designed to be easy reading, you know, relaxing and easy reading.
Yeah.
Uh, and so keeping things or structuring things in a way. That's why I think lit RPGs are so popular, because they're very easy to understand, the same as a video game, and stratified power or stratified cultivation levels do the same job.
Hmm.
They keep everything very easy to understand.
So, will there be a diplomatic class of alien in the future? Alien ant in the future?
Yeah, there will. I don't think that's giving too much away.
A diplomat.
Are the humans poisoning themselves with mana? They are a bit. They are a bit, Paulina. They are poisoning themselves a bit. They will need some help after the siege.
Do you ever plan on having one of Anthony's pets die? If so, does that open up a slot for a third pet, or would it be counted as a fourth pet?
Spoilers. But yeah, if one of his pets died, he would be able to replace them with another.
Or reincarnate that one, but it would be a different one.
If he was able to retrieve the core, he could reconstitute that same monster, but it wouldn't be the same person, quote unquote.
So same construct, not same soul.
Yes, exactly.
Just reading through questions.
The Legion sounds like a caricature of the CCP in the way they treat prisoners. This is an example of the China v Australia trade war. No, I wasn't reading that deeply into it. I mean, you know, what the Legion's doing is essentially taking prisoners that are slated to die, and then they give them an option, right? Like you can either um, join the irregulars, and the Legion. It's in the Legion's minds. They're offering them purpose. They're offering them, brotherhood,
And on a more
and a place
realistic
to
side,
belong.
China's not the only one that's done that to prisoners.
No, heck no. But in the Legion's mind, they're not doing anything particularly bad. You know, you can say no to join the irregulars, and we'll just cut your head off. That's what was going to happen to you anyway.
So you're dead either way. It's just how long you're around for.
Yeah, and maybe you'll actually have a purpose. Maybe you'll actually be able to achieve something with your life if you do it this way. I mean, obviously, it's a horrible thing to do to people,
But they're not living in
that's
a paradise. They're living in a war
new.
zone. So that does weird things to people.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of examples on Earth of the truly horrific things that humans will do
Yeah.
when the circumstances demand it.
Yep. How do you feel about other D&D humanoid races? Like elves, dwarves, and...
Yeah, like we talked about in the last Q&A, I didn't want to do a Tolkien-esque setting. So no No elves, no dwarves, no hobbits, no orcs. As much as I love all that stuff, I think that's all. I just didn't want to do it that way.
No, it's fair enough. You want to keep the um, ideas of what they are. I mean, I can, in my mind, some of the races that you've come up with, I can see how they would be your version of a thing. Like, to me, the sofas are your version of the dwarves, and the branchy are your version of the elves.
Yeah, basically. I was just trying to. I mean, speaking as an author, right? Like it's a bit of a trade-off when you go for something that's kind of established and comfortable. I need other races. Okay, I'll include dwarves. I'll include elves, and that's very comfortable for the reader and it's comfortable for the writer because, like, everybody has expectations, and you don't need to like teach people a bunch of new things,
Yeah.
and you don't have to come up with a bunch of new things yourself. So it's easy, but there's also a loss of freedom um, as an author. You can no longer do whatever you want, right? You've inserted some rails to certain aspects.
Yeah. But I mean, you
And I
get.
didn't want.
Go ahead.
I was just saying I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just try and, even though I'm reluctant to do the work to actually flesh it all out properly, because I'm a bit lazy as an author. Um, yeah, you retain the freedom to do whatever you want. You can introduce your own races, and they can have their own quirks and their own cultures, and they can have their own little twists.
I think the flip
And
side
you do
of
whatever you want.
using established characters would be that it makes it difficult to change anything about them. Can't go, well, these are dwarves, but they're not because of this thing. Then you're spending the same amount of effort as if you would have created your own race. To untrain the reader that this thing about dwarves that you think you know is not relevant in this story.
Yeah, and then you might have a reader who's like, "Well, I freaking love dwarves, and these aren't dwarves," and they might like really hate that.
Yeah. Does
Um,
does the dungeon have a core, like in all dungeon core stories? But this one specifically mentions there is no epic loot, only puns.
so is there like a sentient core in the center of the dungeon
Yep.
that is managing everything? I won't say. Spoilers.
Watch this
What a great
space to
answer.
find out.
What a great answer to that question.
Yeah. That could mean yes, no, or I never thought of this before, but we'll pretend like I did.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it veiled in mist.
Will the colony ever learn more advanced tech like guns, tanks, or maybe even space and go to other planets? Are there other planets?
They won't. They won't learn guns or anything along that.
And more traditional, like electricity? They ever get to that level? Would they need to?
They wouldn't need to, but I will think about electricity. I will think about it.
I mean, it could make the village's life easier with electricity because Anthony knows it's possible.
Well, I often think about like tech, tech in the magical world, right? Like most of the things that we use technology to do, you can do with magic, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to cook food. Well, you could enchant something to do that for you. You need to keep things cold in your fridge. Well, you can enchant something to do that for you. Um, so I feel like the development of technology in a magical world would be very stunted
Or at the very
because they
least,
don't
very
really.
different.
Well, or at the very least, very different because they don't need electricity to do a lot of the things that we need it for, right?
Yeah, over there can just enchant a magic light, so they would have more enchanting would be their tech.
Yeah, exactly. Like getting better at magic and getting better at enchanting and creating enchantment networks um, is their version of technology.
Because they have unlimited power in mana.
Basically, yeah. So people ask, well, it's not a bad question. Will they ever get electricity or anything like that? But in my mind, like, don't feel like they would need to.
Bolt two autocannons on the back carapace of your soldier ants and have them running in as tanks. or APVs.
Well, you could probably, when you evolve, you could probably attach something which fires, like a bombardier beetle.
Yeah. Or I mean, non-insect, but I mean, you've got plenty of species which shoot out spikes or quills or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, in a modifiable system like the dungeon, there's no reason you couldn't attach, a forward-facing version of one of those onto your back.
I mean, they shoot acid anyway, so some could
Yeah, but
argue
shoot acid.
that's worse than a bullet.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like you could relocate. I didn't even think of this. You could evolve and attach a new like nozzle onto your back, so
Yeah.
instead of it being at the end of the abdomen, have a forward-facing acid turret.
That does make sense, but I mean, they can also see 300 or almost 360 degrees, so for them it doesn't really matter. There is the slight tactical disadvantage that in a fight they would have to turn around to use the weapon. So the time to turn around is a disadvantage.
Yeah, and if you actually see acid spraying ants, they can sort of lower the front of their bodies and raise the back up, so they can nearly shoot forwards anyway. So they don't have much of a need for it.
Hmm. And the ants that do use them currently are specialized for it, so they're artillery type style ants.
Yeah, some of the scouts have become like long range snipe specialists or artillery specialists, could say.
Hmm. So are we going to get any POV chapters of Chrysalis or Nvidia?
Yes. Yes, eventually we will.
Okay. Well, I mean, Chrysalis I can imagine. Nvidia, I think would be funny. Especially going into the third strata.
I've been thinking about it for a long time, like how would I write video? And it would be a challenge to do it well, but I do think it would be very funny if I pulled it off. Will Anthony ever come to terms with his feminine side since he's technically a girl now? Like I referenced that one time as a joke.
Well,
basically,
I mean, it
no,
also just works differently in the insect world.
Yeah, there's not much benefit to being a male insect.
No.
Generally speaking, quite a few drawbacks.
And it's not relevant in the day-to-day operations.
No, but the way I think about it is that in his soul, in his transmigrated soul, he is still male.
Okie dokie. Well, the Ant-Man's the priest become an Ant-Man. Okay, we read that one.
Yeah. Good night, Jean Thomas. Thanks for chilling. Thanks for coming out, man.
Thank you very much. I don't imagine we'll be going on for too much longer.
No.
Although there is still a lot. So from this point, I'm just going to read anything that's been atted at me. If you've asked a question and I don't read it, I apologize.
Will there be a science race to nuclear weapons? No.
Fission. Nuclear fission. We want infinite power. So are there other planets? That was also another question.
There are. Yeah, there are.
And is it relevant? Or is that spoilerish?
That's a bit spoilerish. So I won't answer it.
Will there be any royal guard for the queens? I think there are. Mentioned that.
Yeah, there are kind of. Yeah.
Because the main queen kept getting upset with them because they wouldn't let her hunt.
Yeah, there is a group of ants which are dedicated to being her bodyguards. So I guess, quote unquote, they're the royal guard. Maybe that'll become more formal over time.
But wouldn't the eldest's protective detail be the royal guard as well? I mean, there's no reason why there wouldn't be a group of them looking after the queens as well from the shadows.
Well, they were specifically created for Anthony because he gets himself into trouble more than anybody else does.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they could also double as royal guards.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Secret Service.
Absolutely. Will the tree people Anthony met vouch for Anthony with the mother tree? Yes. Yes, they will.
Well, I mean, he bumped into the root and had no negative effect, and in the sections with the Grove Keeper and anything, he didn't mention the ants, so that already shows you that it's got a positive, or at least not a negative association with ants. They don't like the Legion.
You'll learn more about the Mother Tree over the next 15 chapters or so, I guess. Ooh, just give me 1 second, I got a phone call.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. So this is now officially the highest view count I've had during a stream. We peaked at 51, which is interesting. So thank you all for popping past again and joining us this evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is for you. I'm sure we'll do this again. If you do want to see more of this sort of content, leave a comment, stuff, and I'll see what I can do. Also, if there's an author you want me to talk to, just drop the name in the comment.
You've done a few of these.
I did a couple, but then I kind of stopped. My one requirement was that I had to have read the novel, and that the author obviously also wanted to do the stream, which limits the amount of authors I can talk to.
Really? I kind of thought like most people would be into it.
No, me having to have read the story beforehand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That limits it. So
Yeah.
if I remove that requirement, and I rely on the audience to ask the questions, like tonight, then I don't really mind talking to other authors. And I'm also streaming on a regular basis now, so it's not a big change for my schedule.
Yeah.
It's always, I mean, for you, I think the last time I was up at 1, and then the other 2 were American, so I had to wake up at weird times to do the interview. It becomes quite taxing to try line up my schedule with theirs so that we can stream at a decent time.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Yeah, the glory of a global community.
Are there plans for Reincarnators with origins other than Earth? Not at this time. Scorch? That's because it would be like I'd have to put a lot of exposition in and a lot of explanation, and I'm not sure if there would be any payoff. You know what I mean? Like, what does the story gain?
So, random question. We've established that there are multi-dimensions, or at least a vast one dimension. Anthony was on Earth, he reincarnated to Pangera. Earth, I'm guessing in the story, is our Earth, or at least a similar approximation of our Earth. Would there be a approximation of like a cultivation universe, where cultivation instead of a system happens? And could they then reincarnate into your world?
Yeah, so I've tried to keep it so like every novel that I, poke at, it's all one universe. So I try to have an explanation for everything.
Okay. Would you ever consider the system a sentient thing by itself?
Don't know. Don't know.
Kind of like what the New World does, where the system is a sentient being.
Yeah. I mean, we will learn more about the system on Anthony's World and Gandalf as we go along. Sort of, the big reveal that will all be understood.
Chapter 1999.5.
Well, by the time we get to the end, everyone will know how it all works.
Have you got the evolution path for Anthony planned out already, or how far in advance have you planned for him?
No, I don't. I'm just looking at the next one. So trying to stay like two ahead. You know what I mean? I don't have it planned all the way out. I probably should.
So I mean, 2's pretty. I mean, especially seeing as the gaps between the evolutions get longer and longer in story. So I mean, 2 is still that gap. If you always keep 2, is getting bigger.
That's true. Yeah. The gap between the last evolution and this one's been like really long. I don't know if I'll always be this long, but
Well, it depends on the pace of the story that's happening and how much time skipping you do.
yeah, it definitely does.
Because each evolution is more exponentially more difficult to get to.
Mm. Will there be more interactions between Enid and the Queen? I don't know. Would you like to see them? We can.
I think it's like the two original members of the colony. I have a question. I can't remember whether you did answer this. When you mutated the queen to form the Formica sapiens, what happened to the old ants?
Yeah, there was a little bit of I don't know. That was kind of loose storytelling. It was a bit of woo. Um, when he did that, when he modified the Queen and created a new species, every living member of the colony fell asleep, in essence, and became the new species.
Okay, so
If you go back,
there is a
if you go back and read time, that did happen.
okay. So there's a group of ants that are older than the council, but younger, well, and older than Anthony.
Yeah, yeah. But the difference is, and this was explained, I think. Yeah, I definitely did. Um, in terms of how they're going by how their age, in terms of how long they were Formica sapiens.
Hmm.
Like Anthony was the first
Yeah,
Formica sapiens, and then the colony were all the council were the second ones. They were the first to wake up.
but there is a group that has memories of before.
Yep. Yeah, in terms of chronological age, yeah, there's Anthony. There's ants older than Anthony,
Other than the queen,
other
because
than the Queen.
obviously she would be the first. They have the
Yeah,
most memories.
yeah. The reason he's called the oldest is because he's the oldest Formica sapiens.
Yeah, he was the first one.
Yep.
For the twig people that Anthony encountered, hold on, I just jumped. For the twig people that Anthony encountered after the ants escaped from the wave come back, now that this mother tree is coming.
Yeah. Yep.
So those were the branchy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The Baranchis.
I think I pronounced it braunchy. I remember.
Yeah. The Bruanchi.
So
The full.
narrator type question: is there any name or thing that you wrote down which you pronounce differently now because I pronounced it differently?
I not off the top of my head. Not off the top of my head. But yeah, I have listened. It's a bit weird listening to someone narrate something that you wrote, but I have listened to a lot of it.
And has there been any pronunciations that have just surprised you?
No, no. I think you've gotten it pretty much right most of the time.
I will admit there was a big one in the beginning, which was chitin and chitin. I used to call it chitin, but to be fair, I was speaking to my wife and I said, chitin. And she's like, no, I know chitin. It's the thing for the ants and stuff, insects. I said, yeah, but it's not pronounced chitin. So she was also mispronouncing it her entire life. So I don't know whether it's like a cultural thing for South Africans to pronounce it chitin. But I'd never pronounced it chitin.
Yeah, I don't think when I first encountered the word, I was always calling it chitin, and it was only a lot later that I learned how it was meant to be pronounced. So yeah, I was just as surprised as you.
The new battle is going to be Karin. I can tell it right now. But Karin is the right pronunciation for the country I live in.
Is my mic volume a bit low? Sorry.
Oh, there you go. It's a bit better now.
Yeah, I moved it away from my face when I answered the phone.
Okay.
Will there be when we ever see an interaction between Titus and Isaac? Yeah, at some point we will.
Oh,
Will Isaac survive? Stay tuned.
So,
Yes.
you wanted a romance. You've got the budding romance of Isaac and Marilia's shadow.
Yeah, there you go. Yes to Enid in the Queen chat. Okay, yeah, well, we can work it in there.
Did the queen have mind magic though?
No, but others can
Act as
arrange
an
that.
intermediary.
Yeah.
She can go to the queen
Is the
for tea.
colony angry at the Legion, or just accepting of the fact they're aggressive? I think they're accepting of the fact they're aggressive, but still angry at them for the losses. Not obviously not happy about having their people die. Is there a Discord? Yep. If you go to the novel description on Royal Road or on webnovel, the Discord link is there.
And it is a massive Discord server. I think it's got
It's pretty big.
over 1,000 people on it. Not exactly sure how much, but there's a lot.
One of the stratas an ocean, and will the creatures be huge? Yeah, the stratas get bigger and the monsters get bigger as we go. I'm really keen. I'm really looking forward to writing the third strata. It's going to be like a very different sort of environment.
Well, it's the first strata where there is a native sentient race.
Mm.
Other than the top strata.
Yeah, got a very clear picture in my head, like of how it all looks. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm hoping so. Anyway, I'm hoping so.
Well, the tree people. Okay, you read that one already. Yeah. Will there be another species like the aphids that are completely subjugated by the ants?
Maybe thinking about that. I mean, the aphids make a lot of sense, but I don't know if I'll keep going beyond that.
Will you be expanding
You know
on the aphids and how they interact with the colony and their role in the colony?
A little bit, but not too much. Like they're not going to be a major plot point.
I know in the recent chapters that you released on Royal Road, you've been talking about how there's been a shortage of biomass because of the siege and war effort. Would they ramp up the aphid production so that they could get more biomass?
Without giving too much away, like immediately following the siege, there will be another wave. So that's going to take care of the biomass shortage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said that there is another wave, and that's basically imminent at this point.
Yeah. So that's going to take care of the biomass shortage. In the long term, though, yeah, they will have more aphid, and they will ramp that up. Will there be a human that's raised directly by the colony? That is a really good question. That sounds like a novel all on its own, Gabe.
That is a good question.
That sounds like a novel. I don't think I could write that in a way where it was like the justice was done to the concept.
But I think
there's a fan fiction there for you, Gabe. You write it, buddy.
The timeline has only been 2 months in world.
Yeah, basically, he's only been there for a few months.
So, I mean, the rate of growth of the colony would mean that a child would have only grown 2 months. So there wouldn't have been a significant change in that child in the time that this novel has taken place.
Oh, I can't join the chat. I'll try and get that link to you, Jonathan.
Or the Discord server.
Yeah, he can't find one. I'll post it in the next Royal Road chapter. Has there ever been a fan fiction of Chrysalis? Yeah, there's been a couple.
I think there's 3. There's also a wiki, but I don't know whether that's still up and running.
Well, I'm supposed to be maintaining it, so no.
Okay.
Oh boy. Are their demons kind of humanoid? Ish. All will be revealed very soon. Ish.
Ish. I mean,
yeah, don't think of them as your typical kind of like
succubus or.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a sexy human with fire for hair
and horns.
And horns, you know. Nvidia is a demon.
But
he's just like an eyeball.
Dimensional stomach.
Yep.
Or dimensional brain.
Well, his dimensional organs, basically. Like
yeah.
All of his inner body workings are in a pocket dimension. How many human kingdoms are there? There's a whole bunch. And we'll run into more of them later.
Okay, and then will we ever see ant rafting?
Maybe, actually, maybe.
Or would would magic make that irrelevant?
Well, I mean, when you get to like a large body of water, which we will, I'd like links to the fan fiction as well. Yeah, Jonathan, those are only available on Patreon. I'm sorry. Eventually, they'll start to be released for free, but at the moment, no. Oh no, sorry, the fan fiction's free. What am I talking about? I'm talking about my side fictions. My bad.
I can't think of. There is a wiki that had the two.
Yeah, I'll try and chase those down. One of them was about a centipede of all things. Goodness me.
It was about the green centipede. Was the champion centipede?
Yeah, that's right. That was actually quite good. I like that one.
And then there was a second one that was started as well.
Yeah.
But what are your views on fan fictions? Do you encourage people to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't go around encouraging people to write.
Hello? I think he just yanked his microphone out of the.
Yeah, I just pulled my headphones out. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Yeah, I don't run around encouraging people to write fan fictions, generally speaking. The ones that did exist, people approached me and asked me if I would be comfortable with it, and of course I am. That's fine. I think it's cool. I don't want to discourage people from expanding the universe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I did end up commissioning a web novel, sorry, not a web novel. If I did end up commissioning like a manga and getting it Chrysalis slowly turned into a manga, I'd release that for free as well.
Okay. So I mean,
It's
what
just
are your
good
thoughts
to
on this?
bring more people into the circle.
This is more of a meta question, but the state with Patreon or crowdfunding or digital busking, whatever you want to call it. What are your views on that? And do you encourage people to try use that, to try do stuff that they enjoy?
That's a really interesting question, and I'm not sure I have a very good answer for it. It's been transformative for me. Like in this upcoming year, I've been able to take time off and reduce my amount of full-time work so I can actually spend time writing. That's going to start in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, being able to get onto Patreon has been kind of life-changing for me in that way. But I know a lot of other people whose experiences are, very poor. So I don't know, like it's really strange space, and it's enabled a lot of things. Like I would never have been able to do this.
I think it's difficult to plan future growth on something like Patreon.
It is, yeah. Like you can't know, right? Like I couldn't just quit my job straight up and start writing.
And then just hope that people join your Patreon.
Yeah, and just hope people join my Patreon, because I have a family, I have kids, I have a mortgage, you know what I mean? Like I can't take risks. Like
I
if
mean,
I was just
even as a
21 years
youngster,
old at uni or something, I could have.
I think as a youngster, young 20s, late teens, whatever, having a main job is always a good thing. My parents were always about having a backup plan in case the thing that you want to do doesn't work. So if you want to be a writer, write, but have another job so that you can write the way you want to in the beginning and build up the experience. Because a lot of authors fall apart under the pressure that money brings to writing or your hobby at all.
Yeah. I'm kind of trepidatious about that. Like, I'm going to have 2 days a week this year where I'm not working my normal job, where I'm writing for a job. You know what I mean? It's no longer a hobby.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trepidatious at the pressure that I might feel when I sit down at the computer on those days. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, or if you do a
this is
chapter
time.
that you may not be received well, that changes things as well. There's a financial hit to doing a bad chapter, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Like, now your living is based on it. And there's pressure there because, I have to provide for my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bruce, do I have a day job? Yeah, I do. I've had a day job this whole time. I've had a full-time job. I just write in my spare time.
Just a
So only starting in 2 weeks. Starting in 2 weeks, I've reduced my work from 5 days a week to 3 days a week.
Roltz Bloodthorn, the author of First Contact, also has a day job, just as a random fact at how much of a monster that man is.
Yeah, the dude is insane.
Just the content that or amount of content that he releases.
Yeah, like the speed that he writes and the quality that his first pass is, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
must just be absolutely off the charts.
I think one of the things that he has to work with is that it's non-linear storytelling. So you can do a story arc of a completely unrelated thing. So you can have that brewing in the background. We will deal with this group of people for the next 5 chapters. And then we're going to deal with this other group of people.
Yeah, I mean, this could easily turn into a fan stream for Ralph's Bloodthorn.
Yeah. I'm glad I introduced
got a lot of respect. Yeah, you did a great job there, man. That's good. It's good stuff.
Well, it wasn't me. It was people telling me that I had to absolutely, definitely narrate it. What shocked me is it's only been 10 months since he started releasing.
Yeah. Huge amount of work.
It's just like, okay. Will the colony ever have to deal with a deadly pathogen or virus or parasite? Health problems would be a better way to put that.
Don't think so, because I don't think it would be, like, I can understand that naturally that would happen and that sort of thing, but I don't think it would be a very fun arc. Like, I don't think it would be very interesting.
But, I mean, you also mentioned in one of your recent releases on Royal Road, asking the question, is there like monstrous bacteria or monstrous infection?
Yeah, and I don't think there is. And if I don't think there is, then there isn't, I guess.
The voice
I mean,
has
I reserve
spoken.
the right to change my mind. I reserve the right to change my mind.
But I mean, you do have the death-based mana, which could be seen as a pestilence or a virus. That version on that world. You don't have a virus by itself, you have a creature with death mana which behaves in a manner which is a virus.
Yeah, you definitely could do that. I could see that working.
Because, I mean, if you look
probably have to call it...
Sorry?
I said we'll probably have to call it here, Agro.
Okay, right.
I've got to get going.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to all the questions. There's still a bunch left, and I do apologize for that. But there is good news for everybody who asked questions that I didn't get to. If you ask him on the Discord server, he'll most likely answer you.
Yeah, I will.
So
just add me on Discord.
Or just go to the Discord channel, pop the question in there, and then at some point, that will happen. It may not be immediate.
Yeah.
It may take a while, but you can go to the Discord server and ask questions. And there are other people on the Discord server that are heavy fans and will probably be able to answer your question if it's lore related to stuff that has already happened. I will go find the Discord link and I'll put it into the description when the stream's over.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions.
Thank you all for popping past, and I hope you all have a good one. I'll see you all later. And thank you, Rhino, again, for giving me permission, writing the story, and coming on the stream to answer all of our weird and inane questions.
Thank you. Thank you for spreading the gospel of the colony.
Easy. I'm the next Bane. Except I got 2 arms. Cool. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, everybody.